Welcome to Anchors My Way, a podcast brought to you by Into Cruising. I'm your host, Shakira, and I'm here to take you on an exciting journey through the world of cruising. Whether you're an experienced cruiser or just planning your first trip, I've got something for you. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get started.
Hello, Into Cruisers. Welcome back to another episode of Anchors My Way, the podcast where we keep it real about life at sea, and we talk about one experience at a time. Now, if you know me, you know already that I am a huge fan of MSC cruises. But even the best cruise lines get hit a few waves. Today, I'm sharing the story of a ship that gave me two completely different experiences, the MSC Magnifica. This isn't just about a cruise, it's about second chances. It's about watching a ship go from to okay. So if you've ever had a rocky start, and wondered if a ship deserves a second look, this episode is for you. Let's go by parts. Part 1 was November 2023, a shaky start in a beautiful show. I was booked on the MSC Magnifica. It had come fresh from Europe and it was ready to start doing US sailings. I was pumped, a new vibe, a new ship for me. And y'all know how I feel about holiday cruises. Those are one of my favorites. I love spending holidays on a cruise ship. So, visually, the ship was stunning. Everything I loved about this ship. MSC always shows that they know how to make a ship shine. And since it was November, Christmas decorations were so well put together. The lights, the garlands, ornaments. The whole place felt like a floating winterland. It was given elegant, festive vibes. It was an Instagram type of ship. So I absolutely loved the aesthetics of the ship, so I'll always give credit where credit is due. The ship was very well maintained. Everything was really sparkled. MSC takes great pride in physical care of their fleet. Walking down the decks and stepping into the lounges, it felt classy, cozy, clean. But when I came to the inside experience, it was when everything was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So things started to get bumpy. I will start talking about the buffet. As soon as I stepped on board, I took care of my stuff in my room and went to the buffet. Now, I'm all about international flavors. That's one of the reasons why I love MSC. But this time around, it felt like the kitchen hadn't quite gotten the memo that they were now sailing in a very different demographic. The buffet lacked variety, the flavor was flat, it was repetitive, honestly, kind of bland. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting a 5-star gourmet at every turn. I get that. But now I'm at sea. I want to feel like my taste buds are on vacation too. So I was not impressed by that. I understand they were transitioning, then the crew. Bless their hearts. You can tell they were trying. But there was a clear disconnect. Many of them unseemed familiar with the ship, unsure of their routines, and sometimes overwhelmed or exhausted. And if you asked them a lot of questions, they would look at you like, what do you mean? It felt like they hadn't had enough time to get fully trained or acclimated to the ship. There was also something missing on the elements on board. Certain bars didn't have enough supplies. There were certain drinks they didn't have. For example, I like drinking my coffee with Splenda. The ship had no Splenda at the moment. They had sweeteners from Europe. The shops weren't fully stocked yet, and it felt like the ship wasn't quite ready for the prime time that they were actually doing this sailing. Transitioning a ship from Europe to the US can be a little troublesome. No itineraries, no crew rotation, no logistics, and even no guest expectations. It's a lot. But for many people, this was their first MSC cruises, and first impressions matter. That is what I always say, a ship in transition can be risky. It either can win you over or leave you a bad taste in your mouth. And sadly, that Magnifica cruise leaned toward the latter. So in part 2, let me tell you all about my return. So I had a bad experience on my first cruise. But I always say that I'm a real MSC cruise fan. I wanted to give it a second shot, and I wanted to see if they had made improvements. I had made a really big review when they sent me the survey, and I'm sure a lot of guests complained. So I went ahead and a few months later booked another cruise on the Magnifica. I wanted to see the actual experience all over again to see if the ship had improved. I decided to give the Magnifica another chance, and I was blown away. From the moment I stepped on board the second time, the energy was different. You could feel it. The crew had found their rhythm. It had synced. The system were running smoothly. The ship felt like it had settled into itself. Let's start with the food. We were in flavor heaven. The buffet stepped all the way up. More variety, better presentation, and most importantly, better taste. It was on point. There were theme nights, international dishes done correctly, and stations that actually made us stop and say, oh, what's that? I saw people going back for second and third times, myself included. I went back a few times. The main dining room, the night and day difference. The servers were very organized. They were on time, warm and welcoming. There was personality in the service, genuine smiles, helpful suggestions, and those vibes that you could tell that we got you. The vibe that makes you feel like a guest, not a number. The bars were fully stocked. Anything you asked them, they were able to get it for you. The staff all across the ship seemed more in control, and that really matters on your vacation. No more confusion. They were all in sync, and no more slow service. It felt like the MSC that I wanted to experience. It felt like they regrouped and came back stronger. Even the entertainment was tighter. I remember watching a show and thinking, now that's the Magnifica I was hoping for. The cruise director team had more energy, everything ran more smoothly. From trivia to evening parties, the ship it felt different all over again. The ship was always beautiful. The holiday decor was gone, but now it was all about the Mediterranean charm. Polished, marbled, soft lighting, quiet corners to drink an espresso, just the elegance of MSC overall. They're just known for that. The lounges were fully open, the shops had inventory, and it felt like the ship had settled into itself. And the guests? You could tell me they were loving it. The guests were just all over, talking and admiring how beautiful the ship was, how nice the adventures that they were living in, how exciting it was to be back on the ship. I bumped into a few people that had been on the ship before when it was a disaster, and we talked about it. They were like, yes, I cruised, but my first experience wasn't that great. So I guess everyone had the same idea, to give it another try and let the ship do its thing. I like that MSC, whenever you give feedback, they listen, they fix the areas where they're having problems. That's really important for a cruise line, because when you don't listen, you lose customers. And that is the reason why MSC has grown so fast. Whenever you have a really amazing experience like me on MSC, because I've had really amazing experience on other ships, you don't second guess yourself about giving them another chance. Everybody can have a hiccup. It is absolutely normal that a ship has a problem, or mechanical, or either staffing wise. A sailing can get into a lot of trouble from a cruise standpoint. So it's really nice to have an open mind, because cruising can be a little iffy sometimes if you end up on a bad sailing or a cruise has a bad situation. I just give my own advice to everyone who's had a really bad experience to give it a second try. You don't know what's going to happen, and you're not going to have the worst experience of your life, because cruises are never 100% horrible. If you have a bad experience, always try to go for a second chance. If the second chance, it's still the same experience and you see no change, no improvements, and that's an issue, and that would no longer be your preferred or your go-to line, I guess, but at least you tried. That's what a cruise should feel like. And that's the power of growth and feedback. What did I learn, and why does this matter? The reason why I did this episode is because throughout my podcast career and my cruising channel, I've been known to be an MSC fan. But I do notice when they have flaws, and I do notice when they have things to fix. When somebody comes at me and say, well, I don't like this about MSC, I understand it, but I always think back on my experience that I didn't like that sailing and I gave it another chance and I had the time of my life. So if I have the chance, I try to bring that up so that I can make them understand that not every first impression is the right impression. Ships evolve, crews get stronger, cruise lines listen, and it's easy to write off a ship after one bad sailing. A lot of people do this. A lot of people have bad experiences and automatically kill the line. Somebody had a bad experience in any cruise ship and they're like, oh, this line is not good. Don't generalize because they're trying their business and they're trying to cater to so many different people. It's so hard. It's easy to write it off with one bad sailing, but trust me, I almost did and I would have regretted it because the experience I lived the second time was so worth it. I'm also glad I gave MSC Magnifica another chance because what I saw the second time around was a ship that found her footing, embraced her audience, and was shining. They represented what really can be offered from that ship. My first MSC Magnifica sailing felt rushed, unsettled, and incomplete. My second sailing felt confident, organized, and joyful. And that's why I say, don't write off a ship too soon. If it's a brand new itinerary, a fresh transition, or a newly launched ship, give it a little grace. Things may not be perfect that first month, but cruise lines listen. They want to make their customers satisfied. And that says a lot about MSC as a line. They did not ignore the hiccups. They addressed them and did it right. As someone who sails often, I noticed it right away. If you ever had a first cruise experience that didn't hit, or maybe just that ship that didn't deserve another look, especially if it was early in the season or fresh from a transition, cruise lines are constantly adapting and sometimes need a minute to get it right. Let's be patient and enjoy the cruising world. MSC Magnifica went from a maybe not to when is the next sailing for me. I'm glad I did it. If you ever had a cruise that didn't meet your expectations, ask yourself, is it really the whole story? In my case, MSC Magnifica proved that even when things start shaky, they can end beautifully. And that's why I'll keep cruising, because every ship has its story, and sometimes the sequel is better than the original. Thanks for sailing through today's story with me. Have you had a cruise that totally turned around for you? On a second try? I'd love to hear about it. Let's communicate on social media. You can message me or tag me or leave your review with the story. Until next time, I'm Shakira, and I'll see you where anchors drop.